Welcome back to Refactoring Paleo Rose, where we take a 20-year-old Mac app and modernize it. My name is Tom. In this episode, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be fixing the layers table view, which is something I'll show in a minute. But we're going to focus a little bit on how I did it with Claude Code. We're not going to spend a lot of time looking at code or making specific changes. We're going to make this short, sweet, and just talk a little bit about how I used it to fix this problem. So again, here's a view of the app, and you can see this area outlined in red. This is our layers table. So this shows us what layers that we have being displayed in the diagram, and we have the ability to turn it on and off and select which one we want to look at and change various details about each layer. Currently, this isn't working. What I decided to do was a little bit different. I do use Claude Code a little bit while working on this app. But this time I decided to go all out and just have Claude Code do as much as possible. And I have a very specific way of doing things when I go that route. When I use Claude Code, or any AI for that matter, I go through a process. First, I want to identify all the goals or acceptance criteria that I have currently. Once I have that worked out, I generate a plan using the AI. Claude Code is very good at this. We can tell it, here's the AC, give me a plan as the prompt. And then we can have the AI ask us questions to clarify that plan. It may not understand everything that we've said, and it may require a little bit more information. And so that is a very good way of getting things moving. Then once it's done, you want to review that plan and maybe refine it. So I noticed a few things at the end that I didn't like, and I told it to revise that plan. Once we're at that stage, we can implement that plan. If the plan is really short, you could probably do that all at once. If the plan has a lot of stages in it, we may want to execute that plan in each and every stage. Once that plan has been executed, you now have to do follow-up, finding out what didn't work, what needs fixing, what needs testing, all of that. So it's a very straightforward plan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you that plan. And I wasn't originally going to go through each and every phase of that plan and show you the code, but it's so much that it's a little too much for this video. So I'm just going to go through the phases of the plan and just show you the end result. Here we are now in Windsurf. You can do this just as easily in VS Code. This is just a markdown file that I had Claude Code export so I can view it and show you. But I also export it simply because if something happens, I have this plan written down. So it gave you a nice little overview of what the goals were, what the architectural decisions are made, and then we have all these phases. So phase 1, create a new data source protocol, and then implement the protocol in the document model, which is very similar to what we did elsewhere. One thing it's not going to do in this case, I take it back, it did do this, it is using a subject. So we're going to have a subject that we're going to be able to access. Phase 2, we're going to create this new layers table controller. If you remember, we had a rows table controller that was an Objective-C that did all this work. Now we're going to move it to Swift. And so it's taking all the same stuff that we had and move it over to the Swift version. Phase 3 was to implement the layer management operations, all these things that manage the layers, creating, deleting, moving them around. Phase 4 was drag and drop support. I haven't really tested that to see if it works, but we're going to check it out at some point. Combine integration and notifications. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on. We want to get rid of notification center notifications, and it was going ahead and replace notifications with combine, which is exactly what we want. Phase 6 was remove SQLite dependencies. Remember, these layers we don't want to have writing themselves to SQLite in the in-memory store the same way. We want to get rid of all that code, so it's going to do that. It's also going to, phase 7, handle mouse and interaction and handling. So that's an important phase. Phase 9, statistics. There's a few statistics functions in there that needed to be implemented. Phase 9 was testing with mock objects, test coverage. And phase 10 was integration and migration. So we have to update zibs, bridge any more Objective-C, update the rows document itself, and start marking things as deprecated and eventually remove them. So it came up with a plan to implement them in order. It also reminds you all the files that need to be touched and modified, what the testing strategy is going to be, what is the success criteria of it, and what kind of risks you might have and how to mitigate those. So there's just a ton of information in this plan. This is far more a plan that I would have built. But even so, this plan wasn't perfect. There's a lot of things that still needed to be done. And one thing about this plan was that I had it, and in the end, decided to have it do more than just that table. So here we are at the end result. This table is now working. Turn these layers on and off. We now connect it to the inspector. We can actually change the information about each and every layer as we want. And we're drawing. And this drawing part was beyond what I wanted originally to do. All this needed to be hooked up to draw again. And I went ahead and had the AI do it. It had a lot of trouble figuring this out. But in the end, it's pretty much back to working. AI can help quite a bit. It cut down the amount of time it would have taken me to do all this work and did it step by step. It's not perfect. It helped a lot. But if you use it right, you can accomplish quite a bit. Now, as I mentioned, I'm using Claude Code. I'm using the $17 a month plan or something like that. So, you get so many tokens for 5 hours, and then it will reset. And doing this one, I've hit that limit a couple of times. So I spent at least 10 hours working on this. Since I didn't actually do any of the code changes, I had AI do it all for me. Like I said, I'm not going to go into the details. You can look at the details when you pull down this code. But the important thing is, yes, you can go quite far with AI, but you have to be very specific about what you want to do. Have it make a plan so you can understand what it's going to attempt to do. So you understand that it's going to do exactly what you want it to do, or is it going to go off and do something you don't want? And that's kind of important, because you don't want to waste time having it do something else. It's both time and money you're going to lose. This was a quick episode just to show you this, and I got to figure out where I want to go next. If you remember, the primary goal was eventually get the NS document, the root document, into a state where we can replace it with Swift. I don't think we're quite there. We're not actually done getting all the features on this screen working. For example, these adding or removing layers isn't really quite working, and also adding or removing datasets isn't quite working yet. So I'll probably focus on fixing this stuff next, but then we can get back to the process of getting this app back up to date. Because remember, the situation is that we could not actually use the app anymore once the new way of reading and writing to disk was implemented. They started interfering with each other, so we're clearing the old way out and focusing on getting the new way in and get everything back up and working. We're getting to the point where we're just about there. Then once we're at that point, we can start really getting rid of some of these old design patterns, maybe upgrade Objective-C code to Swift so we can actually use more and more things like async await and combine and other modern tools, and eventually into Swift UI. But this is enough for now. Until next time, my name is Tom. Take a look at the code, and subscribe. And that way you can see when the next episode comes out.